Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we're closing out the week here in the NBA with a kind of light schedule from what we're used to when we get those big slates in the NBA on Fridays. But we've got 4 best bets in this video for you. Also have our play of props up for you. So make sure to like and subscribe to that page and keep coming back each and every weekday this season. Also want you to head to thelines.com and use that prop finder tool up there to make sure that you're getting the best odds available to you from all these books that are giving us bets this season. Nate, let's go ahead and get into your first best bet here for the night.
Yeah, I mean, talk about opening line value. Houston was minus 2.5 with a total of 232 when this game first came up. Dallas is at Houston. They're going to be without Luka, Kyrie, Dante Exum, Derek Lively, maybe more. I mean, and just you had me at Luka as out, right? I mean, Luka has just been absolutely dragging this team to any sort of success. And Houston, coming off a 3-game losing streak, is certainly going to win this game. I feel very confident in saying they're probably going to do it with some excellent defense. I mean, Jaden Hardy is now the number 1 option for Dallas, and he's extremely inefficient. So that's the look here. If you did not get that opening line, though, the one place you can basically is still at FanDuel, where they freeze the line and total. So you can still get that at minus 110. If you don't want to tease, now we're down to 225 with the total. It might keep dropping. I think you're fine to tease it, though. Houston minus 4. We can get the total up a little bit. Or you can just take a money line parlay with Houston, and I would add Philly and Golden State. Golden State hosting the Wizards on a back-to-back. Philly hosting Toronto and has won 5 straight, I believe, in the regular season against them. But, yeah, this is really about the Rockets. Like, 1 game without Luka this season, 99 offensive rating. That was with Kyrie active. Their last 4 without Luka, 107 points per game, a very, very low free throw rate, which is the only thing that Houston really gives up at home. Dallas, they've gone under in 3 of their last 4 with Luka. They don't necessarily win as underdogs at all. They're 2-7 against the spread as dogs, 1-4 as road dogs versus 8-1 as road favorites this year. Houston, like I said, the 3-game losing streak, you look at what happened next. They've done that 3 times this year. They beat Charlotte, then absolutely shut down Sacramento twice at home. The next time, 3-game losing streak, back-to-back dominant wins over Memphis and Denver with a 91 defensive rating. Happened again, and they shut down OKC, won at Denver for their first road win, and then just dominated the Spurs and Grizzlies. 3 games that all went under, that all were just elite defensive performances, under 100. 11 wins altogether after these 3-game skids, all of them by 7 to 20 points. So maybe you still like the minus 8. I'm a little wary as the stars bet out, bets up situation, but I mean, Dallas, it's not even like their second string guards are here. Like, this is now getting down to you're just trotting rookies out there like Omax and Jaden Hardy, and Seth Curry might not even play here. So I think Houston's got to hold them down. Maybe you take their team total under, but the Houston defense should be pretty dominant tonight.
Yeah, I mean, they would have to just not try, to be honest. I mean, it's not the same situation as when Star's out and there's a bench behind it with actual NBA rotational players, because that's what we saw with Utah last night. It was after the video, but everybody from Utah is ruled out, and people are like, Detroit's finally going to win. They have to. It's like, wait, hold on, because Colin Sexton's a good NBA player. Agbaji's a good player. John Collins is playing. Walker Kessler. There's 5 or 6 NBA players. I don't see that on the Mavs behind Luka. He's dragging their starting lineup. I mean, kudos. I do want to shout out Grant Williams, also playing super well. So, but that's a player that's heavily dependent on Luka, obviously. He's not going to be out there creating for anybody. It's going to be a lot of him, and I guess Dwight Powell will be out there. If you want to throw Seth Curry, that's just kind of cruel, I think. But if Houston should beat them up, beat up on them, there should be enough of that care in them for the fact that this is their state rival, whatever. So yeah, I'm with that bet, and however you can play it, knowing that it all ballooned in terms of the spread, obviously, but. Let me go ahead and take one of our newfound, favorite bets. The sort of bread and butter of this show is becoming an under for a superstar in a game that they're going to win. So I'll take Steph Curry under 30.5 points. with the Warriors money line. I mean, this bet was about Steph and just trying to be a little bit sharp on a too high of a total for a guy who obviously can score 30 most nights that he would really try to, but I just don't think he'll need to. And you combine that with the guarantee of them winning this game against the Wizards on a back-to-back. Very nice win for them against the Blazers last night, I guess. I could go into a whole heap of details of why that game was just a complete travesty to the NBA and was a smear on the NBA in general, but I won't. I will just say 4 missed layups at the end, couldn't defensive rebound free throws. Anyway, we move on to this bet where Steph and the Dubs, they're healthy in this one. Sans Draymond, as we know, which I won't say that again because we all know he's suspended indefinitely. But moving forward, this is a team that is now a little bit more of the strength in numbers that we saw from them when they did win their first championship, and that was their slogan, because they're just their strength at this point is a lot of depth beyond just Steph and Clay, and they're actually starting to rely on that depth a lot more. That's why Steph has gone over in 4 of the last 10, and if you look at the games that he's gone over in those 10, and I guess we're at now 5 or 6 games without Draymond. You look at those games, and the ones that he scores 31 points or more are the ones that he has to try, or the ones where actually that's it. It's just when he has to try. I was going to say against only good teams, but he had to try against Portland because they were down for a while. He had to come back. Then in the second, when he did that, they were also up and gave up a lead, and so he climbed over 30 at the end of the fourth quarter. What was initially a blowout game, and they just let them come back. I just can't even see that being the case against the Wizards, who we don't have an injury report out for them. We'll probably see some of the regulars, and then some guys will probably sit. Guys like Daniel Gafford have randomly sat back-to-backs this season because coming back from injury. But either way, like, do you want to go into the Wizards? Like, they're awful, right? There's not much to say about them. They're just going to hemorrhage points. The only fear is that Steph decides he just wants to shoot a lot of threes, and he makes 6 of them before he has to get taken out somewhere at the beginning of the fourth quarter, end of the third even. At this point, it's up to 14.5, 15.5, somewhere around there right now for the spread for that game. Just getting it complete. Yeah. 12. Okay, we're at 12. I was looking at a different one, but still 12. And that's because obviously the Warriors have had their struggles lately. But when you look at the like I said, the game log versus the bad teams that they've blown out lately, like this is going to just be another indication of that. They should be getting anything they want in terms of second chance points in this one. You're going to see a lot of Jonathan Kuminga getting his. That's where I would lean for a player prop over before most other places, because it's against the Wizards. Other teams like the Wizards, I'm looking for the guy who's crashing the boards, who's going to the rim, and who's just really athletic at this point, because there's not much in the way of defensive athleticism for that team on the wings or, on down low next to Gafford. So the rebounds are going to be there because Gafford is just trying to block everything, even if he has no shot at blocking it, and that leaves him vulnerable to having no rebounds and secondary rebounding behind him. So as far as the game goes, it's just all correlated that Steph might score and look awesome and have like a 65% field goal percentage in this game, but I just don't know that he'll have the volume or the time on the floor to get to 31, which is a lot of points.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Warriors have some depth coming off the bench now, and with CP3 in that second unit, and everybody can score against the Wizards. So it's not like, you expect Podziemski to struggle like he did against the Celtics and get yanked real quick. Like, yeah, the second unit should be doing just fine. Steph should be whooping it up on the bench in the second half, and this is the front end of a back-to-back, if you didn't mention, and then they have the Nuggets on Christmas. So it's definitely like a bit of a look-ahead spot for the Warriors. And last year, at least, they handled business when they got a bad team at home. Yeah. I mean, there's struggles regardless. Like, it's been a bit of a tough schedule to this point. So I think this is one where they do take care of business and win pretty handily. Intriguing game here in the same conference as Phoenix at Zach. And I'm going to go with the same game parlay here. KD to get 30, De'Aaron Fox to get 25 for even money. If you want plus odds, adding Devin Booker for 6 assists is not a bad play here. Book has done that in 8 straight. He's had 7 assists in 7 of those, and 16 potential assists per game in that span. And Yusuf Nurkic is out, which is actually a big underrated part of how the Suns have been facilitating on offense. So I think even more potential assists in the cards here for Book. But yeah, I mean, really what I feel most confident about is KD scoring. 25 plus in every single game since the season opener at Golden State. And he's been much more of a road warrior, 33.2 points per game on the road, 5% higher in terms of usage rate, 3 more minutes per game on the road, has gotten 30 in 7 of his last 8 roadies, averaging 34.5 in that span on insane shooting splits. The only exception was Alex Caruso, who is a just crazy good cross positional defender. Got on Durant for most of that game against the Bulls and held them to just 25. So, I mean, the safest way to play this parlay is to just take KD 25, Fox 25, and then sprinkle in something else that you think is likely. Because De'Aaron Fox also, what we're talking every single game since he's returned from injury at home, he's had 25 plus. He's averaging 32 points per game in that span. He had 34 against the Suns earlier this season in a game that KD missed, so it was lower scoring. We should see a much better scoring environment here. 244 total. Malik Monk questionable means even more needed out of Fox. And yeah, I mean the Kings since he's returned, their games are averaging 250 at home. They've allowed 28 plus to the opposing top scorer in 4 straight. So it is going to be a good environment for the Stars here, and to get a star same game parlay, if you will.
Yep, I was looking at the same thing for D Fox in this situation versus Phoenix. Definitely a bit more vulnerable at that point on the floor. So yeah, no qualms with that one. I would ride with you. I was going to make a bet of some kind from this, and I have no problems with the way that you constructed this. So I'll go ahead and close it out with an under. And I'm split a bit between Denver winning this game by 4 points, even though they're on the road. And I know that hasn't been their bread and butter as of late. But actually, as of more recently, they have definitely come along on the road. So I'm going to go under 231.5 in their game at Brooklyn is where I start. And I'm not really worried about Brooklyn the way that they've scored in other games. So like I said, I do have a strong lean towards Denver handling business, and it is correlated with the under because I also now talking myself into Brooklyn's team total under, to be honest, because that's a lot of how I see this game theory working is the Nuggets might score. They might get 120, to be honest, but I don't see Brooklyn getting like 110, 111, honestly. So yeah, any way you want to play that, I'm listing here to under 231.5 as the total. Denver's playing at the 5th slowest pace in their last 10 games overall and a little bit slower on the road. 97.5 pace at home, 96 or so on the road. Brooklyn's playing at the 10th slowest themselves. They only get sped up when they play fast teams like a Dallas or a SAC, for instance, right? And so when they do play these slightly slower half-court teams that are not really getting out in transition much is a huge key to this as well for Brooklyn, because Brooklyn is weird. Like, they're down to get into transition or into the fast break and go, but they also don't really get into transition in general. It's not like when you make a basket, they're getting it and going. They're taking up the shot clock. And a lot of that is because they play a ton of ISO ball. And that's a little bit more in depth than just saying they play at this pace, right? Like, what's going on with them is, like I said, they've got so many versatile players that they're basically playing at the pace that not really dictated by them. So I think Denver will be dictating, let's play half court ball. And Denver will be making shots, which is a huge reason, like at the end of the shot clock, right? Like, there's not going to be much brick and go and then keep going, ping ponging back and forth into transition. It's going to be a lot of like pragmatic and like methodical sort of offense for Denver, because they know that they can get what they want down low. I know that Brooklyn's been better at defending the paint, obviously, since Nick Claxton came back over the last like 3-4 weeks. And they've definitely risen in the ranks, which was helpful for them being able to stop Denver. But I still think Denver is going to be trying to pound them down low. I just don't think it's going to work as well for the entirety of the game. So the matchup, and part of the reason there, the matchup, like what I'm trying to get at, is Denver's scoring the 4th most points in the paint. Obviously, Jokic and Gordon, and then all the cutters are a big reason for that. But Brooklyn is 6th in limiting points in the paint at this point, which it's interesting because in the first couple weeks of the season, they were down in the bottom half, and then you get a couple guys back. Like DFS was hurt as well, and he's back. So that's a big part of all this, is that they're down to bang down low a bit more. But they're also going to give up some free throws at that point, because they're probably going to have to foul a lot of those bigs on Denver. So Brooklyn, they are 6th in fast break points, like I said, but they don't get into transition that frequently. It's just that they are very efficient when they do run the fast break, but that's also heavily dependent on teams missing a lot of shots. And as of late, Denver's true shooting percentage back up to 4th best in the league, where it actually dipped a little bit when they were without Murray. And that's going to be a big reason there's not even like really rebounds or transition points available for Brooklyn. Once you put them in the half court, then it's isolation ball, and that does take up a lot of the clock. And it also isn't the most efficient way to play against a really good team defense that has gotten way better once KCP came back in and is back to about a 111.5, 112 defensive rating, regardless regardless of location too. It's the same D rating at home and on the road. So, and no Ben Simmons in this game should be a huge impact. Just kidding.
Yeah, just catching strays at the end there for Simmons. No, I actually trust the Nets defense limiting Denver a little bit more than you're giving them credit for holding up this end of the bargain. Like, remember the last time these teams played, Nets were on a back-to-back after a close win, emotional win in Phoenix, and they gave up 124. Were never really competitive in the second half. But now in normal rest at home, they should do a much better job on Jokic and company. Their home road splits are pretty notable. 113 defensive rating at home versus 122 on the road, and it was 125 on this West Coast road trip. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a tighter environment here at Barclays.
Yeah, it's a good point. So that is all the time we have for you on Best Bets. Continue to follow along, subscribe to that page, and check out the play of props we also have up for you. And until we see you next, happy betting.